Well, happy Saturday, modelers. This is Tom with TCP III Model Building. Wanted to kind of give you a heads up as to why I've been kind of away for a little bit and what's been going on. So the reason for being away for a little bit is actually a couple of different things. One, where I work out at the college, we have to periodically go ahead and create packets, if you will, for the next semester. And we roughly have some 1,200 students in our facility. And even though we break it up between some of the different instructional assistants, since I'm there a little bit longer than most everyone else during the week, I get a little bit more than everyone else does to go ahead and assemble. Sounds fair, but it takes a little bit of time. So was in the process of assembling those packets, and they're not difficult to make. That was the first thing going on. Then as we approached Christmas, of course the weather started getting cooler, and cooler weather is not necessarily friendly to painting, especially when there's a lot of moisture in the air. Now, although my airbrush does have a water trap in it, I don't necessarily like running the heater to go ahead and heat up, just to go ahead and paint for a couple minutes. And although the pieces that I have right now that need to be painted are the cockpit area, the cover area for the instrument panel and whatnot, is just a couple pieces. So, you know, it's kind of ridiculous. But weather's actually starting to get better, despite the fact that today, well, this morning when I woke up, we were pretty foggy. But right now, let me go ahead and turn this slowly and go ahead and raise it a little bit. You can see that we've got some cloud cover out there. We're not supposed to get any type of rain today. Not till Tuesday and Thursday, supposedly. But it is kind of nice in some regards. I kind of enjoy the cooler weather, and I enjoyed the overcast, probably because I spent so many years doing photography that, you know, the lack of light doesn't disagree with me. But a third thing that was going on, although I have done LED and electronic type projects, and I'll show them to you in a little bit here. A friend of mine contacted me and asked me if I was willing to help out with the STEM school in their area just before Christmas began with LED Christmas projects. And I was kind of like, huh? And he went ahead and asked me if I still had any of the LED projects that I had. I said, yeah, I had one. But you know, I wasn't too happy with it, so I'd ordered a bunch of others at the beginning of November, and had built most of them by the beginning of December. And he's like, could you bring them on in? The principal's kind of curious to see what you've done, to see, you know, how it actually looks when it's done, you know, professionally. I'm like, hold on, I'm not a professional. The amount of soldering I've done is not that much, and you know, when you're doing the modeling type soldering, it tends to kind of look, man, I'm going to say kind of trashy, but it's not the best. But I said he's more than free to go ahead and take a look at the solder seams and whatnot for what I had done. So they asked me to go ahead and bring them in, and so this little guy here was the first little project I ever did. Now, this is not actually the same one. The one that I did a few years ago out at American River College, it had a bad motherboard, and you can see on the back, hopefully, you might be able to see, yeah, I can see it there. You can start seeing the leads and whatnot going from solder position to solder position. We found that there were a couple of them that were loose, so it didn't light up that well. So I finally went ahead and bought myself a new one. And let's see. Yeah, you can see it. It actually goes off to low, medium, and then a high. And of course you got this stem right here that stays right over the nose area. So he's kind of cute, especially around Halloween. Another one that I picked up, and I'm going to make sure you guys can see the boards as well, is a traffic light. And there's the front of it. And there's the back. And I think the soldering was pretty good on it for the most part. Now on the front, you might see this little guy right here. You can go ahead and change the speed at which these blink. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it on. And you see the reds on the side just went down to green. Top is right in the front. Yellow on the sides now. Red, and then it will go ahead and flash down to the bottom. And the front does the exact same thing as the back. Yellow, red, down to green now on the bottom. Good for about 7 seconds. Then it goes back up to yellow, red, gives it a moment, flashes down to green. So you get an idea of what that guy's like. So that was probably, I think, the second one that I built. Now my favorite for this Christmas time period was actually this guy here. Now it looks like white LEDs, and hopefully you can see the circuit board there. I think I did an okay job. Oh yes, little guy, I hear you. Yes. What's the matter, Bailey boy? So this little guy, not only is he battery powered, he does have a connector for a USB to go ahead and hook him up to your computer to power him. But this is not all white, although it might look like it's white lights. When you turn it on, these are RGB bulbs, so they'll go all different colors. And they'll flash and whatnot. Although red is the first color that these bulbs turn, so, and depending on how quickly they oscillate, it'll change colors or may bleed out to a different color real quick. But anyways, this one's been kind of fun to have around here during the Christmas time period. Third one, or yeah, I should say fourth one, and I'm going to go ahead and scan down to the desktop here, is this guy right here. My little piano. Now, it's not very functional as far as being a real playing piano. It does go do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, di, do. We'll go ahead and turn it on, and it's got 2 different octave ranges. So let me go ahead and hit it. And I can change the octave. Now, you can see the board here for the most part. Just a bunch of little momentary switches. On the back are your solder joints. Like I said, I think I did a pretty good job on it. This allows you to go ahead and switch between octaves. There's the chip, and every once in a while this will go ahead and start chirping, if you will, through the speaker. And I find the best way to take care of that is just to hold on to the microchip there. That's a block speaker with a positive and negative on it. And there's your on-off switch. There's a USB, not USB, there's a power supply unit there if you do happen to have a 9-volt supply. Anyways, and that tells you when it's on or off. Okay, the last one, and kind of the more complicated, I guess you could say, of them all, was this little clock. And let's see if we can go ahead and zoom in on it to some extent. Alright. So, with the clock, this clock actually, you can go ahead and have a battery backup on it. It uses a 2032 coin size battery, and that's just battery backup, so that way it will keep the time going internally. But to actually run it, you need somewhere between 9 to 12 volts roughly. And I've got it hooked up right now to my, there we go. And I'm going to pan this out a little bit. I've got it hooked up to my constant power supply unit here, and I can dial it in, and right now it's dialed between 9.1 and 9, so let me go ahead and stabilize it there a little bit. Fine. And it's running down a 1/100th of a milliamp. But you can see the circuit board there. You can see, hopefully you can see, because I can't really see the display that well, the back of the motherboard with the soldering spots. It's got the computer chip and it's got the timer. There's the timer right there. And of course right now, you know, it's reading 1234. The momentary switch right here allows you to go ahead and change the time. You hold it down and then release, then push it one more time, and one block will open up, and you'll just go ahead and go click, 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 click to advance it. When you get finished, it'll still be blinking, but go ahead and release for a moment, press and hold it, then release, and it'll go to the next block, and you do the same thing again. So this is kind of a fun one to go ahead and put together. They're all actually kind of fun. Each one had its own little complexity. Come on, stand up. Alright, and pan this back out over to me. Like I was saying, each one had their own little complexity. But the main thing was it allowed me to go ahead and practice my soldering. It also allowed me to go ahead and practice reading the resistors, and to that end downloaded this nice little resistor chart on how to go ahead and read the resistors. Like I said, I really haven't done much soldering or electronic work before, so I think the only thing I've done besides the pumpkin before, putting Christmas lights in models back in the day, and I did have a small soldering project years and years ago where I went ahead and put a high-powered light bulb into a next generation phaser, Cobra style phaser, and that gave it a light that you could hit the back of a room 40 feet away with that light bulb. It did a pretty good job of lighting things up before lasers were out and whatnot. So, and I still have the soldering iron that I used back then. So we went ahead and we worked with the STEM classes. Actually, I think it was the 6th grade class, and we had some 20-25 students, and we took them in groups of, I want to say 6 to 8, and we kind of split off and worked with a few of them a piece because they didn't have many soldering irons. I actually brought my setup, so one kid, considered to be the best in the class, got to go ahead and use my setup. Then another kid used my old soldering iron there, and they all had fun. You know, they got to have some practice using solder. A couple of them went ahead and used solder that didn't have any rosin core in it or anything, so they had to go ahead and use some flux, which this is here. But they had fun with that. And then not lastly, but one of the things that I've been kind of up to was I finished off a model that I had been working on for quite some time. And I managed to go ahead and get it completed early enough. Actually, I managed to go ahead and finish it off right at, what, the 30th? 31st? Finished it the 30th, shot the photographs on the 31st, and I managed to go ahead and get it enrolled in the Model of the Year award with Sci-Fi Annecy, which is a site that's ran by a friend of mine, Kenny Conklin. And the model that I went ahead and finished off was a Vorcha class Klingon cruiser, used in Star Trek The Next Generation, DS9. But I'd had this model for decades, couple, since, you know, Next Generation DS9 was on, so late 80s, early 90s. Anyway, so here's the top of the model. And this is all painted with the AMT specs for this particular model. Now, whether or not it was screen accurate specs, you know, I can't honestly say. There's no lighting in it. The nacelles, there is red plastic on it. Actually, yeah, it's just red plastic. I was wondering if it was clear, perhaps, and then I painted inside of it. But I think it's just red clear. And according to the specs on the model, the top piece is modular. So this guy here. So kind of like the the sway bar, if you will, that's on top of course, you're going to have to know Star Trek models. But the sway bar on top of, like, the Rio Grande, the runabouts that were used in DS9, you could go ahead and replace that modular piece with another piece, so that way you could either have scanners, you know, weaponry or whatever. So this piece actually can pop off. So, and then the bridge area is right there in the front. Anywho's, so I managed to go ahead and get that in time. Matter of fact, here's the base unit. Got it in on, like I said, on the 31st, and seemed to be doing okay. But unfortunately, a couple of days into the contest, someone went ahead and slammed the board with a bot. And I think Kenny said that they got like 45 votes within like a minute, which he immediately canceled the contest, unfortunately, forever at that point. I can't blame him. You know, he is an excellent guy. He and his wife go ahead and come up with, you know, different gifts for the winners and whatnot. So someone spoiled it, and they spoil it for everyone. So shame on them. Kenny, I got to give you credit for, you know, sticking to your guns and whatnot. But I do appreciate that he had a spot for us to go ahead and show models like that in. So that's kind of been what I've been up to. Now, I did want to share two more things. One is a shout out, if you will, to one of my co-workers. He went ahead and surprised me just before Christmas break. I've been trying to help him out, getting involved with model working and whatnot, and he's expressed an interest, and I went ahead and helped him get a few things, including his first Badger airbrush. As well as a couple other items, you know, things not necessarily overly expensive, but you know, things that are needed, like you know, small little clamps and whatnot. But anyways, he was kind enough to go ahead showing up once finals were over where I work, and he had a surprise for me. A nice surprise for me. It was a Churchill tank, World War II. Here you see it right here. I'm trying to make sure that not too much glare comes off of it. It's put out by AFV, and it's 1/35th scale. And if you've never seen AFV models before, they are detailed. I mean, you crack this puppy open, I mean, you got a nice, you know, booklet and whatnot, and it shows you the various different tanks around the lid. But this box is loaded with trees and trees. Now, this package right here has 4 trees of nothing but tank track. Yeah, you're putting together the individual pieces of the track. It's going to be a fun model to go ahead and put together. Possibly maddeningly fun. But hey, what can I say? I'm crazy already. So, Derek, I know every once in a while you get on and you check the YouTube account. Again, thank you. So, I'm going to put that right here for right now. Now, the last item is, as I told you at the beginning of the model build, I picked up spray paint from from one company. But one was the dark ghost gray, I think, for an Acura. Anyways, for one car. The other one, and it just didn't look right. Looked like it needed to be darker. So I went ahead and picked up a darker gray, if you will, from again, same company, but it was for a different model, or a different brand of car. So I got a text message from my model build buddy, Shelton, and he said that he managed to get a hold of some of the Dupla color? No, not Dupla color. DuPont, I believe that was the company, gray, and he said he went ahead and did a test, and unfortunately he didn't have it thinned out proper, and it basically took his model and, yeah, it did nasty little things to it. So he said he's going to go ahead and send me a proper formulation, and when I get it, I'm going to test it first and make sure it works. Apparently it's acrylic. Bailey, what are you doing? He's sniffing tripods and whatnot. I'm like, yeah, no. Don't do what I think you want to do. Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and be sure to test that paint. It's supposedly acrylic, and I do have some acrylic thinner by Tamiya, so I'll go ahead and test it out. But again, unfortunately at this point, because of the weather and the humidity, and humidity is not necessarily the biggest thing for me. It's just the fact that I want to make sure it's the right temp so the paint dries properly. And since I kind of like the cooler weather, I'm not going to kick on the heater unless I absolutely have to. So, but anywho's, as far as I know, I think that is it for this little segment. I think you kind of are up to speed with what I've been up to. Hopefully everyone out there had a good Christmas and a good New Year's. And hopefully 2018 is being good to them so far. I know the end of 2018 was not good for a number of people that I know. So, the end of 2017. Did I say 2018? Anyways. So with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and let everyone go. I hope you have a good weekend. In my case, it's a 3-day weekend because it's Martin Luther King's birthday's weekend. So I too have a dream that everyone and their kids would get together and enjoy modeling. So with that in mind, everyone, happy modeling. Take care. Bye-bye.